this. Just help us to glorify you with everything that we say and that we do. And we just pray special protection over our campuses and our teachers and our students. Thank you so much for just the great weather we've had lately and just all the blessings that you provide for us and our community. It's in your precious Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. So, Andrew and Pierce, come on up here and lead us in our pledges. We'll do our U.S. first, then we'll do our Texas. So, kick us off with the U.S. pledge. Pierce, your turn. Come on up here.
Thank you. And tonight I have Pierce Jasper with me. He is one of our exceptional students. He's here with his parents, Jennifer and Brent Jasper, and his sister Carly, and many friends and many teachers that are here tonight. Pierce plays baseball, football, basketball. His favorite hobby is fishing with his dad, and I asked him, so do you prefer just fishing, or do you prefer going with your dad? And he said, well, I've never done it without my dad, so I would have to say that I enjoy them both together. So he loves spending time with his family. His favorite hobby is fishing, but he also plans to attend and play baseball at Texas Tech when he's older. And if he doesn't become a professional baseball player, he's going to pursue his degree in engineering. He loves to read, and his favorite genre is history, especially World War II stories and the Alamo. I had a couple of teachers say, hey, send me a few things, about Pierce, because we are just so excited for him to be here. And I had a lot of teachers send me information, and they all said the exact same thing about him. So Ms. Bear said that she had had Pierce as a student for a short time at the beginning of the year. She states that Pierce is the model student. He's kind, caring, compassionate, and he is so focused on getting his assignments completed, giving 100% of his effort to his academics, and developing friendships with his peers. Pierce is such a joy to work with. I'm appreciative and grateful for the time I had Pierce in my class. What I like about Pierce is that he sets goals for himself daily. He sets goals for every test that he takes, for every assignment that he does, and he'll ask his teachers, how many do I have to miss and still have an A? So I think that's an amazing feat. Every day he does his best. Sometimes when his dad drops him off, we have a competition to say, good morning first. He usually beats me, but I still try to get the jump on him. Ms. Lagunas is his RLA teacher. She said that Pierce is an easygoing, well-rounded student. His positive attitude and bright personality makes him a joy to teach. He is always willing to go the extra mile when it counts, and she can always depend on him to do the right thing and to help his classmates to do the right thing. He's a great student who sets high goals for his academic achievement. His classmates have described him as kind, funny, and responsible. I'm confident we're going to see Pierce Jasper do amazing things as he continues on to Magnolia Intermediate next year. You're getting a great student next year. So congratulations, Pierce. You deserve it.
I've heard we've got a couple of potential engineers in the house with a good sense of humor. How can you beat that? All right, congratulations, guys. I got to tell you, we do this every month, but there's only 9 months we do it out of the year, and there's 2 students each month. So you're good at math, and you know there's 13,000 plus in the district, so you represent a lot of students. So it's a big honor to be here. So congratulations. Let's give these guys a round. Good job, guys. These guys are young, and we'll see them again.
Well, I don't know about that. I got a feeling we'll probably see him. Oh, you'll see him.
We'll see him again.
We'll see him again.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not sure what, but for a lot of different things they got within their Magnolia
That's right. Awesome. Good job, guys. Okay. Dr. Garza, I guess you're next, huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, well, good evening. It is my pleasure tonight to introduce our March Teacher of the Month. Our honoree this month is Mr. Robert Smothers, who was our 7th grade science teacher. Some former students over there, I think it sounds like. He has been in the district for 25 years total with us. He helped open Red Ranch Junior High, 28 years total in the business. So a couple of things about him. He actually is pulling numerous duties for us right now. He is the 7th grade science team lead. He's teaching both virtual and in-person classes. And on top of all that, he is driving a morning and afternoon bus route for us to help out with our bus driver shortage. He has done at a very high level. So all of that, but despite all that, despite the very long hours, and those guys get up early, by the way, Ms. Vinghouse said he is a ray of sunshine on campus and just an overall positive attitude. Julia?
That's exactly right. My name is Julia Vinghouse, and I'm the principal of Bear Ridge Junior High. And Mr. Smothers, there is no one I would rather be standing next to tonight helping to present this award to. This guy right here, I have seen him work with students personally and individually to make sure that they are on the right track in the classroom. I have seen him work with his team in PLC meetings to make sure that everybody stays positive and on board with what's going on. I actually talked to a few students in his classes, and the general consensus is, and I quote from them, he makes great personal connections with students. He makes class fun and exciting. He makes jokes so that they can connect science to real life, so that they can remember what's going on in class. So Andrew, sense of humor, science teacher, this is your guy right here when you get to Bear Ridge Junior High, okay? Also talked to several of his teachers who sent in some good things. Mr. Smothers is steady, reliable, dependable, a great mentor, and makes the best dad jokes of all time. Also kind-hearted, generous, punny, and willing to take on anything and go the extra mile for their team. So Mr. Smothers, congratulations.
Hello, I'm Cherie Gallimore. I'm the science director, and these engineers, I love it. I'm so excited that we have future engineers coming up in our program. But what you've heard about Mr. Smothers is all true. He has been not only an amazing teacher, but he's also an amazing lead teacher for the science department. He goes above and beyond all the time. He's always helping out his students and also the fellow teachers he works with. So we always appreciate that. He's helped me out numerous times. He has helped me with science fair. He's drove me down to the Houston Science Fair and hung out with me all day down there. He helps write curriculum. He helps write tests. And so he's just been a blessing for me to have in our department. But you might not know, he's also a great storyteller. You guys can probably attest to this. He's a great storyteller in his class, and he always has these amazing jokes that kind of just draw the students into him, and they love him for it. And so we really appreciate everything he's done for all of our students here in Magnolia ISD. So thank you, Mr. Smothers. And if you'll watch this short video.
I guess the first time I knew I wanted to be a teacher is when I taught somebody to ride a bike. They were probably 6 or 7 years old. Just the look in their eyes when they learned to ride a bike, and just the sense of accomplishment for me. That's when I knew that I wanted to teach in some way. I feel like junior high students are the place that I need. Everybody has a place in life, and I think teaching is my calling. Science is a body of knowledge. It's also the answers to our natural world. And I think, especially the junior high level, they still have that passion for learning more about what's happening in our natural world. I think kids look forward to every year doing the fall dissection. Girls in particular don't really care for it at first, but sometimes they're the ones that get in there and really get their hands dirty. So frog type sessions work really well for the 7th grade students. It's an honor to be taught here at my time. There's a lot of great teachers in MISD. I think the reason why we do it is because we like kids. We like working with kids in this time of epidemic. We really like working with those kids.
Good evening, my name is Stacy Norris, and I'm here representing the Magnolia Education Foundation, along with our sponsors Chick-fil-A, Gringos, HEB, The Meeting Place, and Canes. We are thrilled to honor you tonight as March Teacher of the Month. Very well.
Coach Smothers, you knew you wouldn't get away with me getting to say something about you, but hey, one thing I want to say is we're a little sorry it took us so long to get to the point to where we had a chance to recognize you for all the great things you've done for this district, and we really appreciate it. And you made a difference in a ton of kids' lives, including mine too, for that purpose. And so for that and for all those moms and dads, thank you for what you do. And we hope that early morning bus riding thing we're driving, a little gig, we've tried to make it a little more financially enticing for other teachers to pick it up. But thank you so much, because it gets kids to school on time, and it just shows that our great people will go above and beyond to make things happen. But from the bottom of my heart, we appreciate you. Really do. Thank you, sir.
That's awesome, thank you. Okay, our next item on the agenda, we've got a special guest with us tonight.
I'm sure we got a lot of special guests here.
Well, that's right, that's true.
We didn't have special guests tonight.
We want to welcome Mr. Sam Yeager of the new Magnolia Audubon Development. So if you could come up here and present our next item.
Good evening. My name is Sam Yeager, and I am Vice President of Audubon Magnolia Development, LLC. And I appreciate being invited tonight by Dr. Stevens and the opportunity afforded to me by the board to give you an update on the Audubon project. The only thing I'm a little nervous about is the three gentlemen that came before me are a tough act to follow. So I'll do my best to hold up the standard here as we move forward. So I know there's been a lot of chatter about Audubon as a project. It's at the intersection of 249 and 1488. And I've got a little PowerPoint here that we'll walk through and explain a little bit about the project and talk about the elementary school site so you can understand sort of the atmosphere and where things are going to be placed in the project. So to start with, Audubon is a 2,900-acre mixed-use development located in the city of Magnolia in Montgomery County. It'll have 550 acres of mixed-use retail, office, multifamily, and schools, about 4,000 to 5,000 single-family residents. We will have mandatory front yard maintenance for all the homes in Audubon through the HOA. We'll encourage transitional architectural style with material selections that complement the natural surroundings for the single family. In the mixed-use area, we'll actually use Lake Flato style architectural styles and materials. And we're projected to create $2.5 billion of taxable value within Montgomery County and MISD. So pretty big project. In our next slide here, you can see the location of the project. So we're just kind of to the east of the city of Magnolia at the intersection of 249 and 1488. We're about 20 miles from Woodlands Town Center, about 13 miles from the Grand Parkway, 50 miles from College Station, and 40 miles from downtown Houston. To give you an idea of sort of how much frontage we have about 4 miles of frontage on 249 and about 2 miles of frontage on FM 1488. So what is Audubon? Well, Audubon is associated with art and conservation, water, forest, and nature appreciation. It provides residents and visitors alike with an exploration experience. It integrates open spaces, forested environments, creeks, walkable parks, plazas, and multimodal trails. It blurs the line that separates the outdoors from the indoors for millennials and other generations who are looking for a nature-bound experience. The pictures that you see down below are John James Audubon prints, and they're part of the inspiration for the project. So when we talk about symbols and traditional symbols and modern symbols for the project, you're probably familiar with things like the woodlands or kingwood, where they have one singular symbol, and that's sort of their symbol for the next 25 years as they develop out. We know things are changing, and the rate of change is actually speeding up. And so what we've tried to do is create a scenario where we have multiple symbols that can say multiple things to the market. And so you see, for example, the traditional symbols of the nest, the bird, and the feather. The nest represents residential, home, safety, family, solitude, and warmth. The bird represents business. It's a builder, diligent, industrious maker and provider. And the feather represents retail. It's colorful, embellishment, necessity, clothing, and communication. And at the bottom of the slide there, you can see that we've brought all those into kind of a modern context in a way that they are similar but not the same. So as we talk about our identity program for the project, you'll see that there's a lot of things that are important to us, and we have 2,900 acres. This is a 10 to 20-year project, and so we will have people coming back to the neighborhood all the time. We have the opportunity to use symbols and colors to basically project messages to the public. And so you see this is our symbol system. At the top, we have our logo, which is our bird, is our primary symbol. Our secondary symbols are our nest, our bird, and our feather, as we mentioned previously. But then we get into another layer of symbols where, for example, our roadrunner represents our activities, owls represent our education, songbird for entertainment, duck for recreation, and then we have a series of colors that we can brand those with as well so that you walk into any one of these environments and you can kind of see those symbols and colors. And then down in the bottom, we have rust metal and galvanized steel, which we use as kind of the color combination in our project. And then we translate those into some colors so that we have sort of a muted background with a more colorful foreground playing off the feathers of the bird. So this is sort of what that looks like in our entry monuments. You can see we use rust metal, galvanized aluminum and steel, perforated backlit metal, a mix of natural and urban features, sophisticated, purposely manicured foreground with a preserved natural backdrop. And we also use controllable RGB LED lighting. Again, we're trying to focus on a millennial and moving this monumentation forward in a technological way so that we're also dealing with art, architecture, technology all at the same time. So for our mixed-use areas, again, we are going with Lake Flato-inspired architecture and thematics. These emphasize a sense of place, open air, and natural light. There's emphasis on materials with color accents, and emphasis on natural forms and materials, stone, metal, and wood. When we talk about the housing, we have to talk about transitional style. What is transitional style? It took us a while to come up with a definition. There's not a lot of good definitions that are out there. So we use this with our builders here to talk about what that might mean. So this is a fairly large home, but we needed to show something that's had all the elements on it. And so on the left-hand side, you can see that we have the design elements that we're shooting for, which is the use of natural light, minimalism design, industrial elements, masculine and feminine attributes, and depth perception. And on the right-hand side, these are the design solutions we're employing with our builders to achieve those objectives. So we have expansive windows, indoor-outdoor flow, porches and patios with doors and windows, clean lines and purposeful details, metal accent roofs, grid railing, vertical siding, warm palette tones with darker accent colors, color contrasts, and simplified building forms. So here's a list of our builders currently in the project. So we have Dries Homes, Empire, Perry Homes, Anglia Homes, and Devon Street. And these are samples of the types of houses that are built in master plan production communities that demonstrate this transitional style. So as we transition from talking about housing to talking about mobility, this is actually a preview of one of our billboards that'll be going up on 1488, and it says new homes from the 220s to the 660s, all roads lead to Audubon, and they do. So when we say all roads lead to Audubon, we're not kidding. We've spent a lot of time with State Highway 249 and TxDOT on the expansion of the 249 corridor. We've added access roads in exchange for the dedication of up to 180 acres of right-of-way. We added interchanges both north and south of FM 1488 to that program, and the access roads, which are non-tolled access roads that connect those intersections. After completing that with the help of the county, we worked with the county on a $79 million economic development and regional mobility program with the idea that we had just now created this great arterial transportation system along the future toll road, and that this program could help extend the collector system and major thoroughfare system in a way to assist the school district and assist all the users in the area. And so all the roads that you see in red on this diagram here are roads that are included in that project. And we worked with all the stakeholders, Magnolia ISD, Montgomery County, City of Magnolia, and TxDOT throughout the entire process. That was passed, I believe it was in 2018, and we are now in that program and have delivered some of our roads and have started the reimbursement program with the county. So we're not just concerned about what's happening as we're developing, we're concerned about the long term. As we talk about mobility, we also need to talk about how people get from A to B. How do the pedestrians get around? How do we have multimodal trails? And so this diagram that you see here describes our trail system, and this will grow over time, but the grid you see down in the lower left-hand corner is about a 5-minute walk to a trail, a park, a bike path. And what we didn't want to do, and what we've seen before in developments, is there's usually an area somewhere that's designated as a park, but it takes a long time to get there. So what we're trying to do is create an environment where that walkability is there for everyone, no matter where you live or what you do, and we have kind of a unique system here. And so we have 8-foot wide trails. They go along the creek system and along the road system, and they're wide enough for different types of transportation to happen there, both bikes and pedestrians. But it's very important to us to integrate those so that our residents can move back and forth between schools and retail areas and things like that without having to get on the roads. So here's another overall land plan. This sort of gives you a picture of where the school is located, the potential school. It is the red building that you see sort of in the middle of the diagram, with the purple lots and streets being our phase 1. So this gives you sort of an idea. You're just south of FM 1488 and kind of east of State Highway 249. This is our phase 1 plan. So this is our land plan for phase 1. And over on the right-hand side, we have our 40 and 50-foot lots, which are actually on the ground. In the center area we call Audubon Park, you'll see our 70 and 60-foot lots. And across the street from that on Audubon Parkway, you'll see a purple site, and that purple site is the MISD proposed elementary school. So I have some pictures here that I can show you some of the entry elements that will be constructed. So we're starting at FM 1488 at the top there. We'll go through the roundabout on Audubon Parkway. That's this main road going kind of north-south. And we'll show you what things are going to look like in and around the school. So this is the main entry coming off of FM 1488 going south. This is looking at Audubon Parkway, standing on 1488 looking south. And on the right-hand side, you'll see Audubon Park. We have different district names. They're like super neighborhoods in our project. And the area the school would be proposed to be located in is Audubon Park District. And so the namesake will be on the sign. The darker square that you see to the left is actually a perforated metal screen that has a backlighting associated with it. And it's a diving bird. And the diving bird, you'll see art used in a lot of our entry monumentations, and we'll change that art depending on the different monuments that we have. We'll also have one of John James Audubon's pictures, one of his renderings will be on our 1488 sign, so be on the lookout for that. It's really neat. We saw it last week being constructed. In the center, we have our feather, because this is in the area of a kind of suburban and urban commercial area that we're planning. And then you see a series of green screen wall kind of to the left, which is kind of a metal mesh wall that we grow vines on, and so you have a very sophisticated foreground and sort of a natural backdrop that it's set in. This is our roundabout right here, so the school would be located kind of to the lower left of this roundabout, and if you'll notice, the roundabout's sort of shaped like an egg, and again, going off of our bird theme, that's intentional. The scale of this, the cars that you see on here, is about right, so it's a very, very large roundabout. And as you drive into this environment, it's ringed with azaleas. It has green screens that run all around it, and probably one of the more important features for the school is that we actually are showing lighted crosswalks here. It's important to us to protect the pedestrian in this environment. If we're going to have multimodal trails and we're going to have people that can walk to commercial areas and walk to schools, we've got to be able to protect those people as they cross these major thoroughfares and major areas. So we actually have some lighted crosswalks, and I'll show you what those look like a little bit later in the presentation. In the foreground, you can see in the front of the roundabout, we have a wildflower area, so a very flat kind of environment. In the back half, we actually have a wooded environment, so it's kind of an up and down as you drive around the roundabout. There's a series of pavers in there. There's LED lights that go around it. And in the center, we actually have a sign that will be going in the middle that is actually Canadian geese that are actually flying carved into metal. So it's a pretty neat artistic element that we'll have in the project. As you flow out of that, you'll come down to the school entrance. This gives you a blow up so you can see the school site. That is actually not your school building drawing for this site, but it is a school building drawing.
Mr. Bruner would have questioned that at some point, you know.
Yeah, somebody would ask that question. So we used it as sort of a placeholder, but as you can see, you've got access on what is Audubon Parkway, which is the thoroughfare with a 40-foot wide median that you have right there in the middle, and then Audubon Trace, which is the one that goes over towards State Highway 249. Across the street in the brown area, those lots that you see in brown, that's where our model homes will be in our initial Audubon Park area. And between the brown lots and the major thoroughfare, Audubon Parkway, is Audubon Park. And Audubon Park, this is the entrance for the large park that will cover our entire project. We've put it directly across the street from where the school is. And you'll see down in the lower right-hand corner, that's our future recreation center. And so there's some opportunities there to work with the school on parking and other things that might be helpful and a very symbiotic kind of relationship. So this is the site area. It's about 14.04 acres, the school site. And you can see sort of the trails that ring that site. And like I said, it's directly across the street from Audubon Park, so it'll be a great entrance, and you'll have lots of trail access. These trails will go down the creeks, they will go down the roadways, they will connect to all the homes, and so people will be able to make their way to the school site and through the school site. And we find that that is really helpful in terms of mobility. Here's some of the trail improvements. So you see things like the name of the trail at a portal. On the right-hand side of that portal where it says Mill Run Trail, that's actually a solar panel, and we use solar technology to light those so that we don't have to run power. It's a good way to show renewable energy. It's a good way to use technology and to demonstrate that we care about the environment and that we're thinking about these things as we're going along. On the left-hand side, you'll see a wireframe Roadrunner. Again, our message for trail, right? So you see the Roadrunner, you know it's the trail. And so these are different ways that we can brand the trail so that people know they're going into a trail. It's got a name, it goes somewhere, it has a trail path that goes with it. And then you see on the left-hand side, there's some mile markers in there. And so those are sort of the samples of the types of things you'll see along the trail. This is what we call our parkitecture drawing. So these are things that we use in parks and trails and symbols. And so if you look in the lower left-hand corner, we were talking about the crosswalks. And you see the crosswalk symbol, there's a button that you hit, and there's these buttons in the street that light up and let the cars know that someone is crossing the crosswalk. And so that's sort of the technology we're looking at. If you can think about office campus or college campus, that's sort of the approach that we're taking towards pedestrian orientation of this community. It's different. It's not done a whole lot in the suburbs, but we believe that that's the direction things need to go. And then we see things like benches that look like nests, and you have bike racks that have laser-cut birds in them. On the right-hand side, there's actually a tree grate with John James Audubon sayings in it. So just a lot of different things that we're playing off of to try to bring that art and architecture and a sense of place to this project. So here's Audubon Park across the street from the school. You can see there's sort of a round structure at the corner there, followed by a trail that goes down. If you'll notice, there's also some parallel parking that's along the park on the inside of the subdivision, and that's for parking, future parking, to access the park. So we're thinking about those things. We'll use it actually as model parking for model homes, and then it'll transition over to park parking. This is what the Audubon Park looks like across from the school. So you can see the Audubon Park sign. We've gotten that up in the air. This is curved, so it looks like something you might see in an urban area at an arboretum or something. It's a very more of a modern approach. You'll see some interpretive signage in the middle. That sign, we've actually designed it now, and it actually shows the types of birds. It's educational, the type of birds you'll see in the park, animals you'll see in the park. It might have trail information on it. It's really kind of a neat, dynamic sign for everyone, really, when they come to the park to experience. And then you'll see lighted bollards that are kind of along the front. Those lighted bollards basically go up towards the intersection so that as that pedestrian in the evening hours is moving towards the intersection, you're able to see him move towards the intersection. And then we have actually the crosswalk. So we're really thinking about how people get around and how comfortable they are in our trail system. The chimney that you see over on the left-hand side, that's actually a birdhouse. It's 18 feet tall, and it's for chimney swifts. They migrate through this area, and they live in chimneys. And so we've built them 3 18-foot tall chimney swift houses. And what those look like is this. And you can see the bird silhouettes. Those are the silhouettes of the chimney swift, so they have kind of a pointed wing to them. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see information about the chimney swifts. We'll be bringing information about what their migratory habits might be and where they migrate from and things like that we can put informationally on those structures. And so the environment that we're going to have the school in is a very dynamic one in the sense that we have a lot of things going on with the park. We have a lot of things going on with the landscaping and the crosswalks and the trail system. And the purpose of that is to give lots of access in lots of different ways and lots of opportunities too for the school and for the overall community. So this is something else that I wanted to share with you. So our graphic designer was playing around with some school spirit images, and so this is one, for example. The first one you see right there is an owl, and for education we have a book behind the owl, so it can be used sort of for educational purposes. And then the one down below was the one for athletics with the owl. It's kind of a fierce owl, but it's supposed to be, again, along the thematics of the project. We tried to just put something out there because I know when we're talking about something that's, not done yet, it's good to see sort of what it could become or what things could be associated with it. So I thought you'd enjoy that. So look, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. We do have our website. It is up now, and it's audubonliving.com, so feel free to take a look at it. And I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Well, Sam, we certainly thank you for all the time you spent with us answering all of our questions and if anybody doesn't really know, we have already moved forward. This board has already given a resolution for us to move forward to purchasing that land site there. And so this is really just a presentation of a little more, what we've purchased and what the community is going to look like and your vision for that. And I think we're excited to be partners with you as a part of that and growing it. And then, and I think you even had tonight, we were going to talk about, you had a recommendation for a potential name for a school site, and I think our board wants to consider some of that. And so your thoughts on that were? Audubon, a very creative name for that. So we're going to discuss that a little bit, and we certainly are very agreeable to that. And I think we'll talk about it when we get to, we're not actually to the point where we're ready to put a school down there, but that certainly is something that with the growth that you're going to help bring to the area and that the 249 corridor is going to encourage the growth that comes with that, will certainly be something we'll be planning very, very quickly and be excited to kind of map out what that looks like. So any other questions from the board for Mr. Yeager while we've got him here, about Audubon and all things associated with the bird community here? We've got.
I'll just say as a real estate agent out there, this project is really exciting for our area because it encompasses so many price points, and that's going to be great for our community. So it's beautiful. It's exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've had a chance to actually take a little tour with Sam out there, and it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful site. And so he's incorporated a lot of the natural elements in that, and can't wait to see some. And you've got houses actually going up. I mean,
We actually have 3 sales already. We don't have our models open. Our models should be starting to be open in about 2 weeks. We have delivered about 200 lots so far. We have another 100 lots that will be delivered in about the next 30 days. And then we will have another 150 lots behind that that'll be in this Audubon Park area across from the school that will be delivered in about the next quarter. And then we've now contracted for another 180 lots to be delivered in the following year. So, and in terms of price point, it'll be a broader price point than what we've shown so far. So things are going well as it relates to that, and construction is continuing, and if the weather will cooperate with us, then we'll make a lot of progress real quickly.
Well, good stuff. We sure appreciate the presentation because we hear a lot about it, and it's good to put some visuals to it. So it's very helpful. Thank you.
I'm always happy to get anybody that will listen to me. So thank you. I appreciate it.
So Dr. Campbell's going to talk to you guys instead of us, huh?
Yes. Right before I got up, Joe Devies texted me he'd like me to nominate him to be the Joe Devies Elementary School. I don't know if that's in the running or not, but I did it, Joe. My name is Foy Campbell. I am the Director of Fine Arts and also the Director of Career and Technical Education. I have the best job in the world because I get to work with some very talented teachers and with some very creative students. I get to support them to the maximum extent possible and then get out of their way. And that's what I'm going to do tonight. We are here to celebrate some rodeo art. And so what I want to do is introduce to you our art teachers that are here to celebrate with their students. Then I'm going to turn it over to our district art coordinator, Miss Cheyenne Snook. So if you're an art teacher, let's have Miss Sarah Mate come on up here. She's at Elliser Elementary. We have Miss Ruby Ramirez. She's our all-district art teacher in the sense that she graduated from Magnolia West, and now she teaches at Magnolia High. We have Miss Regina Michael. She teaches at Magnolia West. We have Miss Tara Ratcliffe. She is at Bear Branch Intermediate School. And did Mr. Byers make it? There he is. Come on up. You didn't bring your son? He threatened to bring the little terror, but come on up. He teaches at Bear Branch Junior High. And then last but not least, Miss Cheyenne Snook, if you'll come join us. Let's give our teachers a big round of applause. The things you're about to see tonight will wow you, and I do want to say that these are copies of the actual artwork, so if you're impressed with this, you should see the original. And so what I'd like to do is have the teachers join us at that far wall, and the students, after receiving their accolades, will join us down there. And Mr. Blizzard, if you'll come join us at the end, would like to celebrate with a big picture at the end. So at this time, I'd like you to give your attention to Ms. Cheyenne Snook. She's going to explain a little bit about the process and the awards that we recently received. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Yes. All right. If Dr. Campbell has the best job in the world, then I think I might have the next best job in the world. I get to teach at Magnolia West High School art students all day long, and I always say that it's a lot of fun. I try not to reveal that too much because I still want the paycheck, okay? Just so y'all know, all right? But it is my honor to present to you some fabulous students. It's a wonderful opportunity to get to brag on kids. You don't get to see them every day, but I do, and we do in our classroom, to get to brag on teachers who are doing a phenomenal job in let me just tell you, a hard situation, okay? But I love the fact that even in a difficult year, that there are some things that are still things that we do. There are things, there's traditions, there's annual events, and rodeo art is one of those things. So back in January, we kind of started the process of the judging process. The creation of the artwork started way back in the fall. Kids working hours upon hours, making beautiful, fantastic works of art. And in January, we had this whole place filled with artwork on display, students from across the district. The Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo asked the districts to kind of preliminary judge their artworks, and we're allowed to take 45 works of art to the NRG Center for the school art committee to actually judge as kind of the next level. From that, the school art committee chooses 10 artworks from Magnolia ISD that are deemed Best of Show, Special Merit Award winners, and Gold Medal Award winners. And today, I'm going to introduce you to those artists who have been named to those accolades, and I just want you to celebrate them with me. Would you do that? Okay. So first, I want to introduce and I want to show you the Best of Show from senior high, and that's the high school division, is an artwork by the name of entitled, I think I just skipped through it. It's titled Drip, and this is the artist. Lily Lyons is a 9th grader at Magnolia West High School. Yeah, you can applaud her. Her teacher is Mrs. Regina Michael. Best of Show for the junior high division is an artwork titled Good Morning. Isn't that awesome? And the artwork is by an artist by the name of Catherine Hart. She's an 8th grader at Bear Branch Junior High. And Catherine was unable to be here tonight, but her teacher is here, Mr. Kent Byers. Does a phenomenal job over there, yes, at Bear Branch Junior High. Best of Show for the elementary division is an artist by the name of Dane Zorschik, and he's in 5th grade. This artwork is titled Western Runaway, and he is from Bear Branch Intermediate. Phenomenal work of art, Dane. For the Gold Medal Award for the high school division is a artwork by the name of, titled Well Howdy Sunshine, and this is by an artist named Mackenzie Bayless, and Mackenzie is an 11th grader at Magnolia West High School, and I'll just brag a little bit, she's my student. I love her, I think she's great. So, yes, and I don't think that I mentioned previously that Dane's teacher is Tara Ratliff over at Bear Branch Intermediate School. So give those guys a round of applause. Another gold medal award for the high school division is this artwork titled Grazing at Dusk, and it is by Catherine Grace Rutledge. She's an 11th grader at Magnolia West High School, and phenomenal work of art, such a hard worker. I get to see her in class every day, so I'm super proud of Grace for the work that she's done as well. This is the gold medal award winner from the junior high division, and it is titled Winter at Nightfall, and it is by Sophia Phillip. She's an 8th grader at Bear Branch Junior High, and she is unable to attend tonight, but her teacher, once again, Mr. Kent Byers, is here standing in there. Gold medal award winner for the elementary division is Prickly and Proud. Isn't this awesome? This artwork is by 4th grader Ruby Nguyen, and she is at Ellisor Elementary, and her teacher is Sarah Mate. Congratulations to you guys. Special Merit Award winner from the high school division is titled Curious Brood, and this artist is Amanda Nunn. She's a 10th grader at Magnolia High School, and her teacher is Miss Ruby Ramirez. And I'll just tell you, I'm a little proud of that too, because Ruby was my student way back in the day. Isn't that awesome? Another Special Merit Award winner from the high school division, this is titled Morning Bliss, and it's by Jacqueline DeGoyato, and she's a 12th grader at Magnolia West High School. Her teacher is Mrs. Regina Michael as well, so Mrs. Michael has a couple of students here being honored. And then Special Merit Award winner from the high school division. This is titled Spitting Image, and this is by Emily Chartrand. She's a 10th grader from Magnolia High School. Once again, Mrs. Ramirez is her teacher there. So would you help me by congratulating all of these students here for the phenomenal work that they have done. Thank you so much for allowing us to honor these students.
No, yeah. I could mess up a straight line. They do, I think. Because PBK always.
I wanted to once again thank our school board for supporting the arts. It means a lot to us. And let's give our artists one more round of applause. Good job.
Wow, y'all have more talent in your little finger than I got in my whole body. This is amazing. Some incredible work.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
it really is.
And I know they didn't get it from Dr. Campbell.
Okay, good, yeah. He just said the artist will be over here in the break if y'all want to come talk to him. Well, all right, thank you all very much. So, Coach, I guess you're next.
Yes, sir. Dr. Stevens, School Board, thank you for this opportunity tonight to recognize 2 outstanding athletic programs within Magnolia ISD. My name is J.D. Byrne. I'm the athletic director, and it is my honor tonight to recognize Magnolia High School boys and girls basketball teams. And so at this time, I'm going to recognize the girls basketball team. The Magnolia High School girls went 7-4 in District 19-5A. They were by-district finalists, had 4 all-district selections, 12 academic all-district selections, had the offensive MVP for District 19-5A, and they also had the District 19-5A Coach of the Year. And so it is my honor to introduce Coach Ritter and the Magnolia High School girls basketball team.
Thank you, Coach Berna. And thank you, Dr. Stevens and School Board, for having us here tonight to honor these fabulous young ladies. I feel like we are all blessed to be in a school district where the administration and the parents believe that our kids should be in school and competing in a sport that they love. So it was a great year, and it was fun. And we have 18 kids up here, 16 players. Coaches, come on up here, please. 16 players and 2 student managers. When you can get 16 young ladies to buy into your system and what you're trying to do, and for each and every one of them to accept their role and do what they are asked to do every day and do that specific thing to the best of their ability, you know you're going to be successful. And that's what these young ladies behind me did all year. And we did it. We've had some injuries. We've had some concussions. We've had the virus. We lost some tough games. But every time we got right back up, and we did win the games when we needed to win. And we did make playoffs, and that was our goal. So I would like to introduce my staff, 2 Lady Bulldogs, one of class of 12 and one class of 13, Tori Frederick. This was her 3rd year with us, and Amber Davis This was her first year with us. So it's great to be able to coach with players that know you, know your culture, bring some new ideas to the program, and are excited to teach these young ladies. So I'm going to go down the row here and introduce. All right, we have number 13, senior Gabrielle Hutter. Number 33, freshman Jade Bupke. Student manager Taryn Lima. Student manager Sarah Harrell. Number 32, freshman Emma Rowan. Number 15, sophomore Sydney Holland. All right, number 23, senior Mackenzie Miller. And we have number 14, Tate Perugini, junior. Crystal Guzman, senior. Number 25. And we have number 22, junior Emily Boone. Number 10, Krista Adamic, senior. Senior Chandler Christian. Senior Kennedy Harris. Senior Lucy Salerno. Senior Naya Weaver. Senior Kiera Battle. Junior Claire McCusker. And junior Bryn Botkin. All right, thank you again for having us here. And go Dogs.
Coach Ritter. Coach Ritter, I think there were some accolades for the coach as well, and I think that leadership comes from the top down, and the girls perform for you because you are on the team with them, so we appreciate very much how hard you work.
As Coach Ritter was up here, you kind of plan and prepare yourself to, once you get your whole team up here and you got it all down packed and it's ready to go, and then when you get put in the spotlight, now you start thinking about the last names. When I was over at West, I had the football team up here, and we had 62 football players. And, of course, I'm big on nicknames. And so as I get up here and I'm introducing my guys, I remember nicknames, and now I'm trying to remember, first and last names. So, anyway, that's a tough act to follow as far as trying to remember those names. But now I've got the Magnolia High School boys. Coach Kane, if you'll start coming up here with your guys, kind of talk about their season a little bit. This year's basketball team was 17-11 was their overall record. They were second in District 19-5A. They were area finalists. They had 3 all-district selections, 5 academic all-district selections, and they had the co-MVP of District 19-5A. So if you remember, we had the MVP for the girls, and we got a co-MVP for the boys. And so Magnolia High School's got 2 MVPs within their basketball programs. But this time it's my honor to recognize these gentlemen behind me and Coach Kane for the outstanding job they've done this year. Coach Kane.
Thank you. Thank you, Coach Berna. I was kind of hoping we'd get Dr. Moffitt to turn off the lights and call us down one by one and start lineup, but I guess y'all didn't get that memo. But I just want to thank you all for like our administration and stuff, like Coach Ritter said, for supporting us and doing this and being a part of a community and a school district that encourages us to keep going and through a crisis and through adversity, we always just keep pushing and pushing along and do what we can to get these guys in the situations where they can be successful and doing the things they love to do. And I appreciate y'all all for that. So thank you very much. And Coach Berna plays a big part of the leadership of our athletic program that keeps us moving forward all the time. So I appreciate you, Coach. Thank you. Like you said, we were 17-11 overall, which is a great accomplishment for these guys because pretty much our preseason is all 6As, and we try to make it as tough as possible, not really planning on winning a lot of those games. And when we started winning them, I kind of realized we had something special here. And then we took that momentum into district, and we won the first 6 games in a row. And I'm thinking, what is going on? And it turned out that we started back in June. As soon as we were allowed to come back up and meet together, we started in June, and these guys just kind of got together and decided they wanted to do something special. And they did everything that was ever asked of them and more, and did it unselfishly and did it together. And I believe that is what ultimately set them apart from other teams that were taller, that were faster and more athletic and bigger than them, and they overcame all that because a team is better than individual good players. A team of good players can beat those guys every time. So, and that is what we have here today in front of us. So, to introduce them, we'll go by the youngest first, and we got Dustin Linville. Raise your hand when I call you. All right. Dustin Linville, who is academic all-district. He's a sophomore for us, and we expect big things in the future. Then we got Tyler Podolsky right next to him. He's also a sophomore in academic all-district. And then we got our 2 juniors. We got Giovanni LeBron and Austin Mursky. All right. They'll be kind of leading the pack for us next year, and they've already been working hard trying to build their team for next year. And Heston Kelly, who's not here tonight, he's honorable mention all-district, and he's a junior as well. Colin Jurdo. All right. Colin Jurdo is a senior, and he is academic all-state. So congratulations on that. I don't know if I told you that yet, but we got Kyler Fulmer, senior. Honorable mention all-district and academic all-state as well. Mason Machado, he's not here tonight. He's a senior captain and honorable mention all-district as well. Yeah. We have Tom Osborne, senior captain, and Tom is second team all-district, and really he is the, you see how tall, usually I like it when my guys are a lot taller than me, but it didn't happen this year very much, a little bit, but not very much. But when we had to play against a 6'9" guy, we sitting there obviously, how are we going to guard him? Well, we have Tom Osborne. So, thankful for his heart and his toughness. Andrew Bauer, who's not here tonight, he's also a captain and a first team all-district basketball player. Is there anybody left? No. That's it. We got last one is Connor Limble. He's a captain. He's the MVP of District 19 5A and and first team all district. And he's luckily for me, he's the second guy I've coached that has scored over 1,000 points. Over Travis Moffitt's son scored 2,000, and he scored over 1,000. And that's probably why we're second place in district, huh? And by district chance, but we're real proud of that achievement. I think more than anything, this is a great group of guys who love each other, love the game of basketball, and had a great experience at Magnolia High School. And so I thank you all for that, and thank you parents for all the support. I love after the game, whether we win or lose, going to talk to you, and just because I know the love and support we have from y'all, and that means the world to us, and it helps us move forward. So thank you for that, and one last round of applause for these guys. Thank you.
right.
both of those groups.
What's that?
They're proud of both of those groups.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's such a joy to celebrate all the great things going on in this district. I mean, from talent over here to talent over here. I mean, it goes both ends, athletics and art and everything in between.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So we got anything else we want to?
We got a little break right now.
I guess so. So
Good chance to shake some hands at you.
that's right. Want to invite you guys to stay for the second half of the meeting, but if you decline our invitation, this is an opportunity to leave if you so choose. And we're going to take a 5-minute break. Don't get to use a gavel if it's all quiet. Okay. We'll get started with our next half here. Mr. Stewart, we've got a few signed up to speak. Are there any others I don't have a copy of? Okay, cool. All right. We've got several, and I'm going to kind of read the game rules here, but Griffin Smith will be the first one that we have signed up, and while I saw him 2 seconds ago. Okay, while you come on up, I'm going to read the game rules for this part of the meeting. Participants must have turned in a request form 15 minutes prior to the start of this meeting. Participation is limited to 3 minutes. Any complaint or charge brought against an employee by name opposition for which resolution has not been sought in accordance with policy should be pursued through the district's grievance policy. Please note that the Board of Trustees shall not deliberate, respond, or make decisions regarding any subject that is not included on the agenda that is posted. So we love to hear from you guys. So thank you.
Can y'all hear me? All right, great. Good evening. I'm Griffin Smith. I've lived in Magnolia for about 6 years. Do you have a dog? Does anybody have a dog? Have you seen a dog bark at a truck that's driving by? And the truck keeps driving by, and the dog thinks that he's the one that made the dog leave. The dog thinks that he controlled the truck, right? Do you remember hearing about ancient winter festivals? The people were concerned, the sun's going away, it's getting cold. They do a ceremony. Well, they do a ceremony and the sun comes back, it's spring again. They thought that they controlled nature. The masters of the ceremony benefited from people thinking that they had the answers. Eventually, people noticed that the ceremonies of the neighboring communities were a little different, or they didn't do the ceremonies, but the seasons came and went there pretty much the same. Do you remember hearing about the hospitalization rates for COVID in Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and South Carolina? I mentioned them last month. Well, eventually Mississippi looked around, saw that the neighboring states have different lockdowns, different mask mandates, or different timings of these ceremonies. And the virus hospitalization rates went up and down pretty much the same. Last week, the Mississippi governor gave up the show. Mask mandates and lockdowns are ceremonies promoted by people from the top of our government that want to feel listened to and to feel important, instead of telling the truth or accurately communicating efficacy or risk. These rituals fail to control nature. Continuing them erodes confidence in our public officials. Do you remember seeing photos of Dr. Fauci at the baseball game? He didn't have a mask on. He said he was drinking some water, and then he just left his mask off for a while after that. I guess it felt good to breathe freely. Or the videos of the White House press room. They will come up to the side of the stage, put on their mask, and then walk up to the stage, take off the mask to talk. The Kentucky Public Health Commissioner, he was on a video call, and the view switched to him while he was sitting alone without a mask on. He scrambled to hold a mask up to his face before putting it down to address the governor. Or the mayor of Tampa, who mandated masks during outdoor Super Bowl celebrations, whereas she was seen maskless at an indoor hockey game. These are all actors in a political theater. Thank you. Political theater, caught by a camera without their costumes. You'll hear about student harm from this later. Families are organizing. One group on social media has over 250 members against MISD's mask mandate and the quarantining of asymptomatic students. A Texas-wide group has 5,000 members. They plan peaceful resistance to end this mass ceremony and other political theater, one way or another.
Thank you. Okay, Lauren Bohannon is next.
Hello again. I was actually not planning on speaking again at one of these because I'm sure you've all probably heard enough out of me to last the remainder of the school year. However, instead of my own words, I'm sharing a few statements on behalf of some other parents who couldn't be here tonight. Jen says, I have a kindergartner, a second grader, and a junior. I can't do virtual learning for them, and they hated it. One parent writes, my kids have allergies and anxiety. Wearing masks can be difficult if you can't breathe due to either. I have kept them home many days because they couldn't bear to put on the mask. Another parent says, my middle child has had quarantine 3 times, each time 7 to 10 days. He regresses every time this happens. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ashley Gonzalez Rios.
Good evening. I appreciate, first off, the opportunity to be here speaking with you tonight. My name is Ashley Gonzalez Rios. I've lived in Magnolia for 14 years. I currently have a second grader here in the district, and I am also an MISD alumna. I am speaking on behalf of my daughter and the children of MISD who have been pushed out and left behind as a result of the mask mandates. With the governor's executive order ending on Wednesday, it is time for Magnolia to get back to normal, sooner rather than later. In November, the district sent out an email requiring children 10 and under to wear a face mask at school. As you know, these children were exempt from the order to begin with and are statistically proven to not be significant in the spread of COVID-19. The email stated, quote, our goal is to keep students learning in the classroom, our teachers in the classroom teaching, and our families in the workplace. For my family, it has been the opposite. I have had to remove my daughter from school and teach her at home simply so she can breathe. While I am doing the best that I can, I am of course falling short of the education she deserves. I am not the only parent in this boat. I have listened to the comments from previous meetings mentioning growing anxiety, headaches, and disciplinary issues regarding these masks. This is putting our children's psychological well-being, health, and education at risk. To put it into perspective, the psychological effects this has put on our children. For example, my daughter cried when I told her of the mandate being lifted. It was such an exciting moment for her and heartbreaking for me because I realized that no matter what decision I made regarding going to school, it was going to affect her abundantly regardless. It is no secret that people need people. We need to see each other. We cannot continue to deprive our children of this basic psychological need. Masks, just as vaccinations, should remain a personal choice, and I would hope you would agree that institutions such as the government, TEA, and respectfully, this school board should not be allowed to make medical decisions for our children in the district. I plead with you to stand up for all of the children in the district, including those who we have failed this year due to these policies. It is time that we make masks optional for our children and staff and allow them to return to normal. Like the flu, COVID is not going away, and I fear we risk something far greater by not ending this now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Sharon Craig is next.
I don't really need a microphone. I have a really loud voice, but hi there. So I'm Sharon Craig, and I'm a 35-year resident of Magnolia. My 2 daughters attended school, and my grandchildren, 2 granddaughters, and I later took them out and put them in at least for part-time, in a Christian school. So I'm a teacher, taught in the school district, 03 to 05. I'm a Spanish teacher. Love teaching, and I taught the last 7 years at a homeschool co-op, which has been wonderful. And so what I'm doing here is I have something that interested me because I didn't know this was happening. So I'm going to read from the statement. I understand that a school district has many responsibilities, including protecting against liability of lawsuits. I'm sure this district is concerned about liability if someone gets sick and blames the district policies. I want to be sure you're also considering the liability of class action lawsuits from parents that feel the COVID-19 policies of masking and quarantine go too far or are otherwise unfair. And again, I had no idea this was going on. According to our sources, a lawsuit against mask mandates has been filed against McKinney ISD. Also, parental interest is building in at least the following districts: Keller, Louisville, Warren, Dripping Springs, Lake Travis, Burleson, Frisco, Carrollton, Farmers Branch, Prosper, Friendswood, Princeton, May Pearl, golly, a bunch, Birdville, Rockwall, Houston, Tomball, Frisco, Clear Creek, Coppers Cove, Klein, Northwest, Conroe, Cy-Fair, Alvin, and Lamar Consolidated. So I'm just concerned. My dad was for many years, had an insurance business. And I'm wondering, do we have protection in the form of a huge umbrella policy in case the district gets sued? I'm concerned about that. I just thought I'd ask that question. So anyway, thanks for listening.
Thank you, Sharon. We're obviously in listening mode tonight. So our next speaker is Brian Nunley.
Excuse me. First, I'd like to thank you guys, Dr. Stephen, and the board for hearing everyone's opinions this evening. Sorry, I'm going to read fast so I can get through it, but this evening regarding the mask policy and currently in place. And I'd also like to thank board members that did respond to us, the parents that sent out the emails. Thank you very much for your time. I'd also like to thank MISD for not following the same restricted policies that many of the districts had since August of 2020 and keeping schools closed and allowing our students, our kids, to come to class. Thank you. I'd like to briefly share my background. My wife and I moved here over 15 years ago because of Magnolia ISD, the school district. Everybody, how great it was. I'm a parent of a 5-year-old daughter in MISD, and I also had a son that 5 years ago passed away after a 13-month battle of cancer. He was a kindergartner at Ellisor Elementary. I hope that no other parent in this room has ever held their child as they took their last breath on this earth, but unfortunately I have. And I'm telling you this because once you've lost a child, it changes your perspectives, and oftentimes it's not what others would expect. You see, I've seen life firsthand significantly cut way short by a disease, and you realize that life is so precious and every minute of it. And one thing that's most surprising with these realizations that my wife and I had was that when you hear a parent complaining whenever it comes time for their kid to go back to school, to buy the school supplies, and whenever the kids are at home driving them crazy during the summer, and we would sit there and read these complaints and think, God, I'd kill for that opportunity to have that with my son. So you would think that I would transition this into a please mask our children request, but I'm not. My past experiences might lead you to believe that we'd be helicopter parents, and we might be on a few things, but the reality is we were experienced parents on major illness, communicable viruses, and with a child that had no immune system at times. Imagine that you're told your child has a 10% chance of surviving his diagnosis. That's what we were told, and what we heard really was your child has a 90% chance of dying. And that's a scary number, and that's an attention grabber. But death being the greatest concern with COVID, as of today, the CDC says a 5 to 17 age group, the 5-year-old to 17-year-old age group makes up only 9.5% of the total COVID-19 cases, and the fatality rate is only 0.1%. So as a parent, I'm sitting here thinking, 0.1%, should my child become infected with COVID? Okay. I understand, too, that teachers and the staff are a huge consideration regarding the mask policy and the decisions to keep or not. And the TA reported that the average age of teachers in Texas, 2016 to 17, is 31.2 years of age. I couldn't find anything more recent, but I doubt it's much different. The 30 to 39 age group makes up just 1.1% of the fatalities associated with COVID. And the additional consideration, the teachers make up 75 to 25% female to male percentages. Females make up 34% of the fatalities. No death is without great sadness. I'll try to cut this short. So in my line of work, I manage a company that does a lot of work in hospitals and testing and COVID, ICU wards and everything, the laboratories that it's tested in. I've been very fortunate that no one in my group has contracted COVID. I'm a firm believer in PPE when it's realistic. The mask that my daughter's wearing ends up on the floor. It ends up on a table. It ends up dirty hands all over it every day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Kirk Osborne, you're next.
Thank you. I know most of you, and some of you know my boys. Tom was recognized tonight in the basketball team, and Nick Osborne, who was valedictorian a few years ago. And of course, we got our little one, Izzy, who's now in elementary school. She's in 3rd grade. Guys, I would never knowingly put my children in harm's way. I will tell you that our whole family got COVID, thanks to Nick coming home from college with it, and none of us realized that we had COVID until a week later when we realized we couldn't smell anything. We all have the immunity, so if you see me without a mask, I cannot give it to you, nor can I receive it from you. But there's some new information that has come out from the CDC on this topic. I sent it to you, Travis, just as a text message. So you can go to that link on NOQ Report, which is one of my favorite websites, or you can go to the CDC website. This just came out in the past week. Now that the election is over, now that the election has been stolen, let's get on with our lives, okay? Because here's what the CDC report said. Thank you. Here's what the CDC report said. It said that masks, Dr. Fauci was right, they make a huge difference, 2%. As much as 2%, meaning less than 2%. And if you guys have gone out to eat at a restaurant, who's gone out to eat at a restaurant? Okay. Well, you're really, really bad guys, because that gives you a 3% chance of getting COVID because you went to the restaurant. You know, because you had your mask on until you sat down. And then I guess that made it even worse. But guys, you look at yourselves as a school board. You're either representatives or you're leaders. You should consider yourself both, in my opinion. You know who your constituents are in this county. Represent. Lead. Don't wait until April 1st. Let's be done with this. Let's let our kids breathe again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Shelby Montes is next.
Good evening. I'd like to begin by reading a statement of a friend who wasn't able to be here today by the name of Anna. The reason I'm writing is due to the effect that my 7-year-old daughter has experienced from wearing a mask at school. She has anxiety due to wearing the mask all day long. I'm livid, and I strongly feel that it should be the parent's choice, not the board TEA, to make that decision for my child. I have noticed that continued hand washing, social distancing, temperature checks, and improved school sanitation have helped halt the spread of germs. Kids are resilient, but wearing these masks makes them more prone to germs. The parents aren't washing them on a regular basis. The disposable ones are being reworn, rendering them completely useless in preventing germs. Kids are chewing on them, using them as slingshots, dropping them on the floor, and re-wearing them again and again. If you're that paranoid from COVID-19, then just stay home and do your virtual learning. My child has anxiety due to wearing the mask, and I'm an angry parent. Another concern is what the long-term effects this will cause my child are and all the other children with their lungs. Children's lungs are still developing, and they're breathing in their own carbon dioxide. I'm livid, and I will stand strong in fighting to unmask Magnolia ISD. God bless and thank you, Anna. Now I'd like to say a few words. I'm the mother of a 6-year-old son who I planned to homeschool in kindergarten, and he was going to go into 1st grade at Magnolia ISD. However, due to the requirement that children, even of elementary school age, have to wear masks all day long, I've decided to continue homeschooling until further notice. Not because I'm afraid of COVID-19, but because of the paranoid implications that have come from this school district regarding COVID-19. I'm not a huge fan of Governor Greg Abbott anymore, but even he excluded children under the age of 10 years old in his mandate. So my question to you is, why are children of all ages having this forced upon them? I'm one of the lucky ones that I'm able to stay home and educate my child, but many parents aren't. And I speak for many parents when I say we're angry. If people were wearing full-face respirators and the COVID-19 virus was in fact as deadly as it was originally predicted to be, then I could see some sense in all this. But as it stands right now, this doesn't make sense because, as Anna stated, these masks are being played with. They're being dropped and reworn, and they're not even the proper mask to begin with. The coronavirus is 120 nanometers in size. The pore size of a cloth mask ranges anywhere from 80 to 500 micrometers. To put that in perspective, 1 micrometer is equal to 1,000 nanometers. Therefore, the cloth mask offers no virus protection of any kind. In fact, does more harm to our children because they are rebreathing in all the pollutants that are being collected in the fibers. Yes. 2 years from now, we'll see all the implications that the respiratory damages this has done to our children during this time, and it'll be solely your responsibility. I urge you to consider the implications of what you are pushing onto our children and passionately request that this policy be dismissed immediately, and that this decision, as well as all medical decisions, remain in the hands of the parents. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you. The next one is Winona Hausman.
Good afternoon. My name is Wileen Hausman, and I am here to say what this has done to my family. I happened to, when the governor made his mandate, that there was a mask mandate, I first called my doctor and said, what do I have to do to be exempt? They said, we know your history. You're exempt. I wrote a letter, and I have been persecuted for that, for not wearing a mask. This is very nervous, so if my voice shakes, I apologize. But I have anxiety. I've been put this on, obviously, on my child. I've had one child that graduated from Magnolia ISD. I really have never been to a board meeting. I've always said the school is great. I do not say that right now. I do not appreciate when I've walked into the school to try to go take my daughter a book that she left to drop on a box. I didn't like when they put the walls up. I thought that was crazy. I guess y'all want safety, but I want my child to feel safe, and you've made my child feel unsafe. Now my child, who did not have anxiety issues, has anxiety issues from wearing this mask. I've had to take her to the doctor after the mask mandate from running up and down the stairs in the Magnolia West High School, and she developed active induced asthma, but then because of going up and down the stairs and wearing the masks, she now has severe asthma. They said, oh, we've got to have her tested. Maybe she had COVID and you didn't know it and she's got COVID lung. No, they've tested her. She's never had COVID. She does not have COVID lung. She has severe asthma caused by wearing masks. It is totally inappropriate for our children to be wearing it. I'm sorry, I don't know who y'all are, but Mr. Blizzard, you took your mask off to be able to drink a drink, and you've sat there without it, my daughter is not offered that in school. She is not allowed to take her mask off because she's not allowed to drink in her classroom. So therefore, she's having an asthma attack and she's being grabbed by a teacher at the top of the stairs telling her to cover her nose with her mask. And she's trying to say, I'm just trying to catch my breath. And so then she gets to class late because she's had an asthma attack in the hallway and been yelled at by a teacher, to then get detention for being late to class because she can't do it with a mask on. And she's having to take her asthma medicine 4 times when she's only supposed to take it once every 4 hours. So now she's had to get on another medical medicine to keep her from having all these asthma attacks. These are caused by the masks. They are not every person that I know that has gotten COVID, and I have known some that have died from COVID. I know a 90-year-old man who did not die from COVID, and they have locked themselves in their house, they have quarantined, they have worn masks, one woman wore masks constantly, she wore gloves constantly, she quarantined herself, she did everything she got, it was in the hospital. She has recovered. But y'all are causing more damage to our children. When I get accosted to walk into the school to give something to my child, when I'm not even seeing anybody, when my child is having to do it, it's wrong. It needs to stop, and not April 1st, but on Wednesday, because I want to send my child to school without a mask.
Thank you. And our last speaker is Alicia Klowinski. I probably mispronounced that last name. My apologies.
Thank you, board members. Thank you, superintendent. All right, as Mr. Osborne previously noted, there was a new mask study that came out by the CDC, so it got me wondering, what are you guys looking at when you're taking into consideration whether we should make the mask optional or not? Are you looking at statistics? Are you reading studies? Or are you taking your personal opinion, your political opinion, and forming some form of evaluation? Because you guys have a lot of say in what's going on with our children. The psychological impact that's taking place, as the lady previous to me noted, it's just appalling. This lady that was talking about how her child was being disciplined for not wearing a mask, that's called aversive technique in your education code of conduct. It's a result of trying to change the behavior of children. Children have nothing to do with this. They are perfectly healthy. They are not super spreaders. There are statistics to show this. In fact, in January, there was a study that was done, a FOIA request by the OSHA board in the state of Michigan, and they wanted to see what the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services was taking into consideration when issuing a mask mandate for all the children. They said, we want to see if you're actually considering that the masks are safe and effective for our kids. So come to find out, after this information was released, they only looked at 2 studies. One study was only 12 children in a lab testing who never had COVID. The other study was 124 families retrospective, just evaluating what practices they were doing not wearing masks. So they didn't look at any actual statistics to show that the mask wearing was effective and safe. And we all know from listening to parents here that our children are being impacted. We have to stop the quarantining. We have to stop the masks. What happened when the flu was around? The flu would spread like wildfire. Did we quarantine? Did we mask up? Did we have to socially distance? Did our kids have to do online schooling? No. We have so much fear that has been instilled in us, and this crap has to stop. I'm tired of it. I just want you guys to understand that you have no authority. The TEA has no authority, and the governor has no authority to decide what is best for my children's health or for anyone's health in the public. We have God-given rights, and it is time that you guys understand that the masks need to go away. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. I mean, we're going to address this topic later on our agenda, and thank you for all the comments. We appreciate it. We listen to everything we hear and see and read. Moving on to the next part of our agenda is your report.
I'm gonna punt and let Mr. Bruner take that one. We did have a little bit of cold weather, as most of us lived through. And although we knew it was coming, I think the severity of it sort of caught up with us a little bit. And I think, as Mr. Brenner will tell us, when we lost power in those buildings, there were repercussions for it. But I wanted to let the board just be apprised of what all we dealt with, and I want to, we'll talk about these guys that work for this gentleman right here and what a yeoman's job they did in protecting our buildings. So, Mr. Brenner, you want to give us a little report about how we fared through the ice apocalypse?
Yes, sir. And good evening, board. Obviously, you know what we went through a few weeks back, and the impact that it had on all of us, not only here in the school district, but at home. You know, somewhere, let's see, the Sunday and Monday, where we had the coldest weather for an extended period of time, we got in on Tuesday and Wednesday, we started going through buildings. Unfortunately, we didn't have water or power in most of them, so we couldn't really tell much because everything that was frozen was still frozen. We started getting water back at some of the campuses on Thursday and Friday. We started finding the problems, the leaks. We began repairing immediately. We had contractors working Thursday and Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday to get us ready to come back to school on that Tuesday. So we had great response from the contractors that do work for us on a lot, very often. By Saturday, we had water up at pretty much every campus except for Magnolia High School. Unfortunately, we had some problems that we couldn't take care of to get ready for Monday. So we spent Monday working on Magnolia High School and Willie Williams, where we had the biggest problem with our gas lines and boiler systems. And that was the bulk of our damage, folks. It was mostly with mechanical systems. We didn't really have, with the exception of the old special services building, or buildings, and just because of the nature of their construction. But with our other schools, we didn't have any internal damage. We didn't have any lines break that caused massive flooding, so we were very fortunate. Our newer campuses, obviously, we had fewer problems, so they seem to have held up better. Boiler systems, most of our boiler rooms, you have to understand, are not conditioned space because it's hot water. So as you can imagine, what happened with most folks, I mean, you have temperatures that cold, we were going to have problems. But when you lose power, you just have no chance. And that was obviously the biggest problem with our unconditioned spaces, our water plants, pumps and valves and things like that froze up. But we managed to get through it. We had a lot of our folks came in and worked starting Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and the Monday that the rest of the school district was shut down. I give a big thanks to Dr. Stevens, Dr. Morris, for taking care of those folks financially. It meant a lot because they had problems of their own to deal with. And what did we learn? Well, one of the things that we're looking at now is some more intelligent systems to go with our HVAC and our boiler and chill water systems. We're talking about like inline sensors, flow sensors, things that can shut down pumps that continue to operate, recirculating pumps that continue to operate once the lines froze and they just burned up. We're in the process of replacing those now. We need better protection at our water plants, our older water plants in particular. But a lot of our preparation, I think, saved us a lot of money and a lot of headache. And that was, we took our irrigation wells down, we took our water plants down, we drained systems, we added additional insulation, And I think it paid dividends in the long run. But I would thank the maintenance and custodial departments, B5 Construction, B&C Constructors, Wheelbanks Mechanical, and NTS Pumps, to name a few that really helped us out in a critical time. But overall, we've assessed probably around $150,000 in total damage in the district. And that's pretty good, considering we've got about a little over 2.1 million square feet of school, floor space to cover. $150,000 is pretty reasonable cost. So we feel pretty good about how things went. That's pretty much it. If you have any questions.
And I'm not going to question you, Mr. Bruner, in front of everybody, but I think you alluded to before that we probably wouldn't have needed that extra Monday time, but you didn't have any water service to all of our buildings that were in the city of Magnolia, so you weren't really able to assess some of the issues that we needed to address, and we knew we had a boiler that was down.
Yeah.
And so that really is probably some of the reasons delayed. But now, the boiler, I don't know. It was tough to get contractors during a lot of time because everybody was looking for some of those services, and even your men and folks had issues at their personal residence that they were trying to deal with, and a lot of it. And so it was hard to get a lot of those guys in. So I think one of the things that the board is going to do is we're going to address that for emergency pay for those people who came up during that time. And we got to take care of the guys who take care of us during those emergencies. And we just appreciate their time. And we want to make sure for that whole department is thanked. And I think one of the things that I can get the board to spring forward, we want to kind of feed those guys somewhat and do something as appreciation for all that hard work during some of that time that they put in for us. And not only that, a lot of them helped us volunteer. Is we never got a warming center set up in this building. I mean, it was a goal, and we worked toward it. We had a lot of people coming up here in the middle of the night and all stuff, but our water here was out. And that's one of the things we need to address this board, because we do assess this from a private water corporation. We may need to look at getting a well set up here so we can be independent and be able to serve the community with this building a little better. But we had the guys that volunteered up here and were part of that effort being up here, and also when we passed out water for the community. So we really thank those guys. And I agree. If you hadn't done some of the preventative maintenance that you did before the storm hit, it could have been a lot worse than it was. So from the bottom of our heart, we thank you and your team for all the things that you guys did to get us through that and get us up and rolling. Any other questions for Mr. Bruner while we got him here?
I would say that, the main point, or one of the things that we did with this center was add a generator to it so we could open it up as a shelter. The next step would be to put a well, because if you don't have water, it kind of makes it difficult to do. One of the purposes that we built this for was to serve the community, and so if we're depending on water and our water goes out, it doesn't matter if we have a generator. So I think the well makes a lot of sense here.
And I do think that the water facility that we have that serves this campus, it does have generator backup, but for whatever reason, their plant failed. And we can kind of understand that. We have backup generators at our high school water plants, but there were certain parts of those systems that just froze solid. We just don't build water plants down here like, they do, in the colder climates. And so they're just not designed for that kind of extended, harsh, cold temperatures. And so I'm sure they had some of the same problems that we had. But what we would look at is, if we were able to build our own system, is to do something that, utilize better insulation and have heat sources, inline heat sources, that absolutely would come through in the clutch. We would simply design it more like a water plant, up north somewhere. And that that would be the only reasonable way to go about this, to proceed with our own well, is if that we really took it to the umpteenth degree to make sure that it would be functional in those type of conditions. I really feel for these utility districts and their water plants not being up, and I know that, you know, there's probably a lot of customers in this room right now that were upset they didn't have water, but we dealt with a lot of the same problems. And it wasn't until Saturday that we really had most of our schools up finally.
When we added emergency capabilities to this building, we were thinking hurricanes and wildfires. We weren't thinking freezing for a week, so
That's a good point.
it's okay if we missed a step, so we'll figure out a way to make it better.
But we do have Montgomery County on our side on that too. They believe this is a critical infrastructure for this part of the county, and they're going to support us in anything we need to do to get a water well up and running over here during any type of emergency.
I mean, you know, I just will finish with saying that, you know, the silver lining to me was it was a difficult time, but I was really proud of our folks. I think they came through in flying colors. Thank you, Todd.
And I have to say, I've felt a little bit guilty when I was sitting in my freezing house, no doubt, but reading your email updates saying where all you had been and what all y'all were doing, and I thought, God bless those people, because I know their wives are at home going, hey, we have problems too. So we appreciate very much that you put the Magnolia ISD family at the top of the list every time. Y'all do a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Green.
I do think we have the best facility team in the state of Texas. We're going to be the best district in the state of Texas. I think we got the best facility team already, so.
That's right. The results speak for themselves, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bruner. Now we're going to go to the consent agenda, and this portion of the agenda consists of items to be routine and enacted by one motion unless separate discussion is requested. So is separate discussion requested? Okay. If there aren't any questions, we need a motion that the board approve consent agenda items A through H. Motion by Kelly, seconded by Chuck. All in favor? Chick-fil-A. That motion passes. Thank you. And you look like you're primed and ready to go, Dr. Morris.
I'm ready to rock, yes, sir. So we heard the exciting presentation earlier from Mr. Yeager on the Autobahn development and a little bit about the future elementary site that we are nearing conclusion on purchasing. And we also heard Mr. Yeager's response to Dr. Stevens' question about his preference for the naming of the new elementary school. So to keep it short and simple, based on board practice in the past and our board policy adherence, and in collaboration with Mr. Yeager and the Autobahn development, tonight we are recommending the name of the future elementary site within the Autobahn development to be Autobahn Elementary School, which requires board approval. So be glad to answer any questions.
Hey, Eric, I know Dr. Stevens kind of alluded to it. When we did the 5th, 6th campuses, we generated a lot of capacity inside those elementaries. Do you know right now, ballparkish, how much excess capacity we're on? And I know we can't look in a crystal ball, but about how long in the future are we really looking at before we build an elementary school?
Well, with some strategic planning on our part in terms of boundaries, Mr. Adcox, I mean, even with fairly progressive estimates for enrollment increase purposes, I mean, we bought ourselves several years, and we would probably be looking at closer to 4 to 5 years, I would say, before likely having to look at the next elementary school. And so obviously, in terms of percentages, I mean, each grade is fairly consistent at a K through 5, and so when you remove the 5th grade from every element, all 8 of our elementary campuses, I mean, it was a huge decision by the board and our steering committee at that time to do that, to buy us capacity for years, and I know it also made sense curriculum-wise and instruction-wise, and so it was a good move on the part of the board to make that decision, for sure.
Everybody good?
I'm good.
All right, if there's no more questions, we need a motion that we approve the name of Audubon Elementary for the future elementary site in the Audubon subdivision. Motion by Christie, seconded by Travis. All in favor? That motion passes. Thank you, sir. And you can carry on.
All right, thank you, sir, and congratulations, Mr. Yeager. Next on the agenda, as the board is aware, I guess unfortunately aware, in the event of emergency school closures, we must follow those events with resolution setting certain parameters, and I won't go into too much detail, but the three primary focuses are identifying the time frame of the official closures, which obviously we know which days we were out, but also considering continuation of pay for all employees, which is a practice that we've established, and to Mr. Bruner's point earlier, making a recommendation for premium pay for the individuals who actually had to show up and work, many of those in this situation whose personal homes were affected. And so after sitting down with Dr. Stevens, we made a decision to recommend even a higher than normal premium pay for those individuals, given the circumstances of the event, where we were recommending paying them 2.5 times their normal rate of pay for the hours that they worked. And as Dr. Stevens mentioned earlier, maybe we can give them a lunch as well. Maybe even a fish fry, I hear, is something that they enjoy. So anyhow, we certainly appreciate their efforts, but again, for the parameters of the resolution, we're looking at obviously the dates of February 16th through February 21st. And again, a continuation of board practice to continue to pay all of our employees during that downtime, and the approval of the premium pay are the primary components. Be happy to answer any questions.
We were certainly grateful to have them, I'll tell you that. I mean, a lot of people were concerned about their own homes, and we got guys out there working to get us back on our feet. I mean, like I said earlier, the results speak for themselves. We got back online quickly and didn't spend a lot of money to do it, so kudos.
And we were able to
them.
get to all of our campuses, so that's,
Yeah.
that's a wonderful thing.
A lot of things to take care of while our own houses are on the edge.
And I guess, just FYI, I mean, I don't want to get off on leave the railroad tracks too much, but we do have policies in place to also protect the district in terms of recouping some federal benefits that we will likely receive for the premium pay. So that is helpful as well.
Mm-hmm. No, that's good. All right, if we don't have any questions on that one, then we need a motion that we approve the winter storm emergency school closing resolution as presented. Motion by Kelly, seconded by Joe. All those in favor? That motion passes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Mr. Davies.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Stevens, thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak with you today. It's no secret in Magnolia that it's hard to find people to sit in those bus driver seats, and it's not something that's just isolated to Magnolia. It's statewide, it's nationwide. It's something that we've dealt with for a few years. Today we're 11 drivers short, and 2 months ago we were 20 drivers short, and then you add FMLA and the call-ins, and we're starting the day with about 35 to 38 people out, which is a tall task to do. But I'll tell you this: every kiddo got to and from school safely, because that's a great department we have in transportation here at Magnolia ISD. The great people that work there, they're phenomenal, dedicated. And again, as I've said before in a school board meeting, it takes a village. Like our teacher of the month, him and his wife are both driving in the morning and afternoon. So then we have growth with the Audubon and other areas in the district. And so we need to do something, or we needed to do something to get in front of this so that it just doesn't get worse and worse and worse as we move forward. And so what we did is, due to the shortages and to hopefully attract potential drivers to Magnolia ISD, encourage growth from within, and maintain the current employees that we have, we created the following recruitment and retention plan that I'd like to present to you this evening. One thing that people don't always understand is when there is a driver shortage, we have to pull from teachers, coaches,
can't tell you the number of times that I've called Coach Byrne and said, hey, do you have any coaches that can help do this? And we need routes. We have ROTC instructors that went and got licensed and help us with routes as well. And so that's mechanics. That's, we have to pull them from rebuilding that transmission to go and make sure that the kid get to and from school every single day. And when you pull them from their job that we've hired them to do, to drive that route, then they have to come back and do their job and finish their original job. And so when these people work 12, 13 hours a day, 1 week, 2 weeks, it's stressful, but they get it done. But when they've been doing it for 8 months, it's very taxing. So one thing that we'd like to include in this plan is for our non-exempt transportation office staff and mechanics, and we'd like to add bump their hourly rate a little bit when we pull them from their jobs to drive a route while they're actually driving a route, as a way of saying thank you, we appreciate you, and we want you to continue staying here rather than leave us. We'd also like the exempt transportation staff, and you'll hear me say this probably a couple times, but everything that I talk about today will exclude the director of transportation, assistant director of transportation, and the fleet manager, that admin team, but I will say they too could pull away from their jobs to drive routes and to dispatch and to do other things to make sure that happens on a daily basis. And so, but to exclude them, we do have some exempt employees that what we'd like to do is we'd like to put together a very small stipend based on the number of days that they're pulled to drive a route. And it would start, with 1 to 5 routes, they'd get X amount of dollars, and they'll go all the way up to 21 routes or more per semester, and give them a little stipend based on how many times they drive, as a way of saying, hey, thank you for doing what you're doing, and to keep them and retain them. Also, you have the football teams, you have the bands, you have, the debate teams, all these trips that go out, and it's so hard to find trip drivers. Once again, Coach Berner's probably, when he sees my name come up on his phone, is like, here we go again. I'm sure I wouldn't blame him. But it's hard to find people to drive those extra trips for us. And so what we're recommending in this plan, again, is that same minimal bump while they're not driving a route, but they're actually driving a trip to get those kiddos to their competitions that they need to get to and from. In an effort to reward employees who have been faithful in attendance, we'd like to offer them a buyback of a maximum of 3 unused local days in order to get them to come to work every day, or encourage them to come to work every day. We do that at a rate of $75 per day. It's voluntary. They can keep the days, or they can go ahead and sell them back to us. Either way, they can't do both. They can't sell them and then keep them down the road. It would be one or the other. It's voluntary. It'd be each year would be a standalone. And so then that brings us, the last item I have in this recruitment and retention plan is our inclement weather day. And one of the things that I want to say about the inclement weather day is if it's safe to do so. If it's safe to do so. Because the safety of our kiddos, the safety of our employees, the safety of the community is of the utmost importance. So if it's safe to do so, we want to have school. And Dr. Stevens and I have been out on the roads 2:30, 3 in the morning, checking roads to make sure that it is safe to do so. And I guess a couple weeks ago it wasn't safe to do so. And so we didn't have school. But there are some times where we have weather reports, we're watching the news, we're seeing what's coming down, whether it be rain, whether it be ice in this case. And sometimes I think we had an ice day that wasn't at one point. And so sometimes it is safe to do so. And so with that, what we'd like to do is we'd like to get a commitment from our transportation employees, because a big part of being able to hold school is to have enough people to transport our kiddos to school so they can get their education. And so we'd like to implement what we call an inclement weather pay for them, which just the night before we give them a call and they commit to coming to work if it's safe to do so. And then that midnight, 1, 2, 3 in the morning, we're on the roads, Dr. Stevens, myself, and we're traveling the roads, making sure everything's safe. And if it's safe to do so, then they come to work. And if they've committed that day before so that we can so that Dr. Stevens can make the call to come have school that day or not,
it's very hard to do so without that commitment, without knowing who's going to be able to show up. And so we'd like to reward them with a small amount added to their check. If they've committed the day before, it's safe to do so, and then they actually show up to drive a route that next day. If they can't commit for whatever reason, but they still do show up, there's a portion, it's not the full amount, but there's still a portion that they will receive for being there on that, what could have been an inclement weather day. Some of these items that I've talked about, such as the stipend, we like to try and start immediately. Some others where we bump their hourly rate as they're driving, that would be something that we'd get with Dr. Morris and his team, to where they'd have to build some codes that we'd share with them, that they'd punch in and out as those codes, so that it would reflect that they're driving a route. Others actually, like the buyback, would not start till next year. So we're asking that you approve that this evening, and I'm here for any questions you may have. One of the things I guess I should have said is that people don't understand, to become a bus driver, it's a very lengthy process. It's about 40 hours minimum in training. They have to pass 6 written tests at DPS, 2 driving tests, of course a drug test. They have to pass a DOT physical, and 20 hours worth of school bus certification. So it's a very lengthy process. The federal government is trying to make that 40 hours of training around 58, 60 hours mandatory for everyone. And so, it's not something that you show up, you interview, and the next day you're on the job. It's a very lengthy process, and that's part of one of the things that makes it challenging nationwide to get drivers, as well as it's a huge responsibility.
Joe, I'd just like to tell you that I think you've done an incredible job. I saw, starting a couple years ago, when you redid all of our bus routes, and I know that from some people in the community that met with some opposition, but the main reason for doing that was so we could reduce the number of drivers and get all of our kids to school. And if we hadn't done that, today we would just be in incredibly bad shape.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
I think not only what you're suggesting tonight is a fabulous idea, but I think everything you've done has been absolutely fabulous in that transportation department. Congratulations on keeping us as good a shape as we've been in.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. Thank you very much. And I do have to say, there's great people that Cindy and her team do a phenomenal job to make that happen too. So thank you.
How many total, if you had a full staff, how many total bus drivers?
We would have, we have the total staff is 100, right at 180. As far as routes, we're right around the 103, 105 range of routes.
What do you think the average age of a bus driver is?
You have to be 21 to drive, and I don't know. We have some that are 21, 22. Mama D's, she's a monitor. We call her Mama D. She's awesome. She's 85. And so there's a wide range, but I would say that the majority of our drivers would probably fall into the 35 to 45 range.
Well, I think that the talent we've got is incredible. I've tried my hand at driving a bus, and I hit every cone and tennis ball I could find. So I think it's amazing. You wouldn't be calling me to back up a bus driver, that's for sure. It's just, and you couldn't think of a more important cargo to be carting around, right?
Absolutely.
And watching 12 mirrors, the road, the rain, the traffic, everything, right? So I just think it's incredible the job they do. I got all the respect in the world for these guys.
Thank you.
If we don't have any other questions, then we need a motion to approve the transportation and recruitment plan as presented. Motion by Joe, seconded by Christie. All in favor? That motion passes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate everything you do. That's great. We can't, those teachers can't work the magic they work with them unless we get them to school. And some of those rough days, we just need those teachers, the bus drivers to be encouraged to be out and be on those roads. And we need to appreciate them. It's not going to happen very often, but I'm proud Joe put that together for us. So.
For sure. Thank you, Mr. Davies. Okay, our next item has to do with a mask resolution. So I want to read a few comments and then read the resolution and then give anybody else an opportunity to speak that might want to do that. We understand, we saw a lot of people speak tonight. We've heard people speak before. This is nothing new. We understand it's a very polarizing issue. It's a very divisive issue among everybody. Just as many people are against it or is for it. It's amazing. And we have followed the governor's orders throughout this school year. And we're now in a position, as everybody saw Governor Abbott speak last week, we're now in a position where the governor's making masks a personal choice. Not a mandate, but a personal choice for the state. And the Texas Education Agency, the TEA, responded to that by requiring schools to continue with masks, but they gave school boards the local authority to make them optional. So as board members, we listen to and read notes that we get. I mean, we're not deaf, we're not blind, we get all that. We read that, we get all that. And in fact, I can't think of too many people that are excited to roll out of bed in the morning and put a mask on. I would think most of us are not in that category. But we thank everybody for the input. We appreciate the input here. We appreciate the emails we get. We haven't had a chance to answer them all yet, but we'll get to that. But we also, along the way, wanted to hear from the people on the front lines, meaning the teachers and our staff on the campuses. And the reason we wanted to hear from them is because they're doing the heavy lifting with all the students. We're trying to keep the main thing, and it's about the students. And they're the ones taking care of that. And what we learned from this survey is that 52% want to remove the masks, roughly. Roughly 45% want to keep the masks, and the other 3% don't have an opinion. So that doesn't sound like an overwhelming majority, but the survey also indicated that about 70% would support removing the mask mandate once they had the opportunity to be vaccinated. So that bears repeating. 70% would support removing the mask mandate once they had the opportunity to be vaccinated. So it turns out the governor's made educators a top priority, which should have happened, but okay, it finally has, for our vaccine. And I tell you, I got to hand it to these guys. Todd and his team, they've done a fantastic job of finding vaccines. It's one thing to have all of our educators on a list to have a vaccine, but to know it might not be available till who knows when is something else. I mean, you're eligible, but when can you get it? Who knows? And I think Todd and his team have done a fantastic job of, in a matter of days, coming up with sources for vaccines, and there's more to follow. And of course, these are becoming more abundant, we all know that, but they've done a fantastic job of making them even more so and more available for our teachers and staff, which is just awesome. They've been working with Montgomery County Office of Emergency Management, St. Luke's, and some other folks to make the vaccine available. What we know from last week is the governor has moved from a public mandate to a choice, to a personal decision. And this is not about, this is about a choice versus a mandate. It's not about us rendering an opinion on the efficacy of the mask or the vaccines or anything of that nature. What it is about is looking at something being a choice versus a mandate. That is the discussion we're having. And it's not also a discouragement to wear masks. Anything we vote on tonight is not that. We still encourage masks for those who choose to do so, regardless of what happens tonight. It's a choice. It's a choice. It's not a mandate. And I'm going to take a couple of minutes to read the resolution to you that we're talking about tonight. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of Magnolia Independent School District authorizes all students and staff to be exempt from Texas Education Agency's mask requirement as provided for in GA 34, the governor's order. This district resolution, when approved, will become effective Thursday, April 1st, 2021. This delay will allow teachers sufficient time to receive a vaccine if they choose, now that vaccine is available in Texas to teachers as a group. Until this resolution becomes effective, the existing mask requirement for all MISD students and staff will remain in effect. So those are some opening comments along with the resolution. I would look at my colleagues to see if anybody has any other comments before we move forward.
First, I'd like to thank everybody for coming and giving your comments about the mask. You know, I didn't discuss this with any of my colleagues ahead of time, any of the other trustees, that I was going to talk tonight, and actually I didn't think I was going to. But after hearing what some people have said tonight and the way they said it, I think it's good to give you a little bit of context. And understand that, number one, I'm not a believer. Do I personally think the masks have done an effective job of slowing down the COVID? No, I don't. I just absolutely don't. Now, that's a personal opinion. Backed up by the CDC, by the way. Well, but that's a personal opinion. But when you're doing a certain job, being a trustee for a school district, it's messy and it's complex. And it doesn't necessarily allow you to interject your personal opinion, even when you see certain facts that you think are close to undeniable. It doesn't allow you to object that personal, let me interject that personal opinion into that. Now, let me give you just a little bit of background. Number one, everyone in my family has already had COVID. All of us survived it just perfectly fine. Got it from a daughter who was away at college. We all got it. We all got over it. It was fine. On the other side, I lost a very, very good friend to COVID. Seemingly was in very, very good health, contracted COVID, and within about 4 days died. And was stunned. I mean, I would have never in my life guessed that that would have happened. For those of you who talked about the anxiety the mask cause, I have a daughter who that mask seems to have had that effect on her. It has really impacted her in a negative way, I believe. She's a freshman in college. She already has a zillion other things going on. But I've seen it have negative effects on her. So with all those things in mind, then I've heard in previous board meetings, people come forward and say, we all just need to ignore the TEA, and Magnolia just needs to tell TA where they can go, and y'all need to just override their mask mandate and just declare that we're going to have no mandate such in this district. And I am absolutely one of the people on this board that said, absolutely not, should we do that? And I'll tell you why. A couple reasons. Number one, the biggest motivation I have had is that our students need to stay in their classrooms. And the TEA rules were that if people were not double masked and someone was exposed, essentially everyone they were exposed to had to quarantine, including their teacher if she was exposed. There have been whole schools in Texas that have been wiped out because of that. And you can say what you want, but that's the rule. And that means, therefore, we have to send those kids home, we have to quarantine them, and they don't get to come to school, and they don't get to learn. Their teachers don't get to come to school, and their teachers don't get to teach. And guess what? If you have no teacher, you have no kids. So you have no school. Not a great choice. The other choice, the other thing that I heard, that I'm an attorney, and I'll tell you what, is a reckless decision if I would have voted to say, let's ignore that TEA mandate. Our Fifth Circuit has given our schools a huge waiver against tort in this state. I mean, it is so difficult to sue a school district and win. And I heard earlier the person talk about the fact there's going to be class action lawsuits against schools. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. You go spend your money, you go try to win, and look, go contact attorneys who study just school district law and find out how successful those people are. Never. The only time you get to be successful in a lawsuit like that is if the school itself is reckless, is capricious, shows indifference to the law. Well, guess what? To a school, the law is the TEA. So if we go against what they say, and all of a sudden a teacher dies from COVID, a student dies from COVID, a parent of a student dies from COVID, all of a sudden we, the school district, could be liable, and since we're now reckless and we've lost our immunity, I don't think it's a stretch at all for a jury to say, well, this certainly warrants, these people were so reckless, we ought to give them punitive damages. This school district is truly in one of the top 10% as far as financial soundness because of good decisions that have been made. I don't think a good decision is placing our school district in harm's way by allowing us to get sued and lose our immunity against any type of tort as a trustee. And I'll say this too, and I'm saying it passionately, I know. But I'm not speaking for anybody else up here. I'm just speaking for myself. I'm just trying to give you some insight as to why I have voted. I haven't voted this way to suppress your rights. I haven't voted this way to control you. I am a very conservative-minded voter who thinks, y'all have probably heard it, but one of the smartest things I ever heard was said by Ronald Reagan. The biggest thing you ever have to fear is someone knocking on your door saying, I'm from the government and I'm here to help you. I agree with that. I own a small business. I have built it myself. I paid for all of my education. The government didn't give me any money to go to school. We had 8 kids in my family. If we wanted to go to school, we had to do it ourselves, and we did it. I believe in self-help. I believe that we live in the best country, period. I believe in personal liberties. But that being said, I completely understand why this board has unanimously voted in the past to keep the mask mandate intact. I think it would have been irresponsible for us to vote any other way. Now, that being said, that does not diminish the harm that mask mandate caused. I'm not diminishing that at all. I just think that the vitriol that has been expressed to the wrong people. And I think you need to go to TEA, and I think it should have happened a long time ago. People should have gone to TEA and torn them up and say, what are you doing to us? But y'all are talking to the people that are hamstrung, that don't have the ability without causing severe harm to our district to override a TEA decision. That's not the way education works in the state of Texas. And all y'all are voters. You have the right to go to TEA and tear them up. You have the right to go to our state legislature and tear them up, and I encourage you to do it. I absolutely encourage you to do it. So, I hope all that made sense to you, and I truly, as I heard people express such anger at the mask mandate, I promise you I understand why. But as a trustee, I'm telling you, I have not felt empowered whatsoever to vote against it. And even right now, with it being extended to April 1, I feel an absolute obligation to people like our teachers to give them time to get vaccinated. One of the best teachers that's ever been in our district is going to retire this year. And she's a calculus teacher, and she has taught my daughters, and we are going to be the worst because she is leaving. And one of the reasons why she is leaving is she has people that she can't have exposed. And she feels that strongly about it. Whether I agree or disagree with her is not really my choice. But we're losing her for that reason. We don't want to lose good teachers. We truly don't. We need to respect what their wishes are. Half the teachers voted to keep it in place. Without good teachers, we're not going to have a good district. So I promise you, I hear the words you're saying, I really do. And I think most of the board has heard your words, and I apologize for taking up all the time, but I just wanted y'all to hear one board member's perspective on why that I have voted that way. Even when, quite frankly, like I've told you, I don't agree with masks. But thank you for listening.
Any other comments?
I've got a little static on my mic.
That's got an air conditioner tied to it.
It does, it's blowing. Very well said, Joe, and I would agree with you. I think this is a hard decision. I think the April 1st deadline is a tough one for me. And I've let y'all all know that in one way or another. I'm not a mask fan. I think we're going to have issues the next 2 or 3 weeks at campuses. And number one, just because kids are going to show up Wednesday without masks on. And so I think we're going to have to address that. And if we care about teachers and administrators, then we need to address that. And so I'd like to have a game plan for that. And that's maybe not within this resolution, but teachers need to have some backup for the next 2 weeks if we're going to extend the deadline to April 1st. And my first choice would be, just because it's a 2-week period, to do it today or Wednesday, whenever the resolution or whenever the mandate's up. But it doesn't mean that I don't want teachers to get vaccinated if they want to get vaccinated. If they want to wear masks, I want them to wear masks. But I think the next 2 weeks are going to be a problem. And that's my only point of contention with extending it. I'm glad we're getting rid of the mask mandate April 1st. I'm happy we're doing that. I just wish that we had some things in place for discipline. Are we going to discipline? Quarantine rules. How are we going to address that? And I think that may be a new problem that we have to deal with the next couple of weeks. But you guys all, I respect everybody on the board, and I appreciate being able to serve on the board. But the next 2 weeks is just a concern for mine.
Well, I will assure you, we will make sure we have a plan in place to address that. As we look at the metrics of where we are right now, and with the ability that we've been given by the governor's order and TA reinforcing it to say that local districts can have a decision about where they're going to go in regards to masks in their school, I believe that it's time for us to make a decision moving forward. I mean, besides the mask, I think in Magnolia ISD, we're as close to normal operating as we can be. That's one of the things we promised our parents at the beginning of the year. That's what we wanted to have for this district. And I think this is one of the last things that we need to remove. But we didn't have that ability, as Joe so eloquently sort of gave us a rendition before that. But now we do. And I think for us to pause, and by what the survey has said and the concern that our teachers have about receiving the vaccine, and the fact that last week was the first week that teachers in Texas could receive the vaccine as a group of teachers, not necessarily in A1 or B1 part of that part. So our teachers have, and we've been working hard to make sure that vaccine is available to them. I think we're somewhere like 2,000 something doses have been available last week to teachers. Some of it specifically to Magnolia ISD and some of it to teachers in Montgomery County. So as administration, I would respectfully ask that we stay with that April 1 time for that, to make sure that we're sending a message to our teachers, because without them, none of this happens, and that we signal that they're important, that we need them, if they choose to go and be vaccinated, to have the time for it. We'll continue to look for those resources and get them out there, and then just as quickly as we can, once that's happened, April the 1st, we'll move forward with removing the mask mandate. To that time, we're going to, we're not going to discipline kids for that. We're going to lovingly ask them to respect
their teachers so they have time to get the vaccine, so they don't have to worry about personal issues in their life related to that. And so I think it's a good position to be in. I think we're going to be in one of the very, very few districts in the state of Texas that's taken this step, and I commend it, but I believe we're in the right place to do that. But I think we have to make sure we take care of our teachers, and it'd be prudent for us to wait until April 1st before we move forward with it.
Another piece of that, just for anyone who hasn't gotten this far in their head yet, for 10 of those days, the kids will be gone. For 10 of those days, you are on spring break. So for 10 of those days, no one who doesn't want to wear a mask would not be wearing a mask. But, you know, I have college kids too, and, you know, the Texas A&M system, for example, spring break for those kids is one day. It's on Friday because they don't want those kids, and granted, that is an international client base there on that campus. They don't want those kids scattering to the winds, unmasked or otherwise, and coming back all together. And so for us to come back after spring break with them masked, if you thought from a teacher's perspective, if they were nervous about it before, they would be less nervous about it. If they had that extra window at the end until April 1st to see if someone became symptomatic, if someone had picked something up while they were out. So we have heard very impassioned pleas on both sides of this. I'm a mother first and always. And I know that even with my 3 children who were raised under my roof, rarely would they pick the same color marker. So when everyone is raised in a different family with different sets of circumstances, and the impassioned plea comes from a very genuine place, and our comments that we got from the faculty and staff when we polled them, those all come from a very genuine place. And I wish, like anything in the world, that I could tailor the world specifically for each of my children so that they could rise and shine and be the best that they could possibly be because they feel empowered to be that. And every person sitting at this table with me wishes that we could do that for every one of the children in our care and for every one of the adults in our care. But we can't do that because everyone's life is not the same. So we're trying to find a way for everyone to feel validated and heard and as safe as we can make them feel within their realm of their life circumstances. So I understand that the mandate coming off by the governor had a date, and you all heard the same things when he did it. Everybody was like, what's so special about next Wednesday? Why not today? It just takes time to shift gears and to give everyone involved a respectful opportunity to shift gears. And I feel like April 1st does that and gives people an opportunity to go enjoy their spring break, get a breath of fresh air. I know it has freaked out, especially the littles, having to wear the mask. I absolutely get that. Mine are clearly not little anymore, but I also understand that when you are a high school teacher and you have a comorbidity in your spouse or in your own life, and those kids coming in your room 7 different periods a day, 250 different kids, they're not kids at that point. Their bodies are adult bodies, and they do transmit. So there are so many things to look at, and it's hard to look past your own life experience, but that's what we're tasked with doing. And I feel like the April 1 date gives us a chance to let everybody get their house as much in order as they can between now and then. So it's not that we don't believe what everyone has said and sent, and I appreciate so much you voicing your opinions and sending us information, and I just want you to know there hasn't been a thing that I have heard that I have discounted as not applicable to this, because every single feeling in the world is applicable to this. There has never been, in my 7 years on the school board, an issue that touched every single person, every taxpayer, every parent, every student, every teacher, every cafeteria worker, every bus driver on the most emotional level you could ever imagine. And I think everyone's trying to do the best that they can with this situation, and the best just doesn't look like the best if it's not the answer you would like to have. So I just want you to know that we've heard everything, and we're just trying to make it feel as safe as it can be for everyone who has to move forward. So I believe that the 10 days for spring break is going to be a huge help, no matter which side of this issue you're on, and no matter which way you are as a classroom instructor. 10 days of just a release valve where you're not frozen in your house or quarantined because you have it. It's actually 10 days you can do something with that you want to. So we appreciate everybody's input, and we appreciate your support. We've gotten a lot of messages too, or I have gotten a lot of messages saying, we know you're in a bad spot and we're praying for you, and you can't make everyone happy, and we trust what you've done up to now, so keep doing it. So if we can just, as Magnolia community, just pull this together one more time and just get past the hump, it's gonna be good.
All right.
Just had a question related to the COVID testing that we provide as an option at the event center. Are we still going to continue to offer that as an option to student and staff in the foreseeable future?
Absolutely. Stuart, how many tests do we still have available?
We just got a shipment of 4,200.
Okay.
We've got enough tests.
So that'll still
We
be an
will
option
continue-
for students and staff?
We will continue to test, yes,
Great.
absolutely.
And then the vaccines that teachers are wanting, it sounds like 70% are comfortable once they get vaccine. That's also optional?
It's optional, yes.
It's not a
And I
requirement.
really haven't heard of any district
haven't
yet
heard yet.
that's trying to require that of their employees. But yes, it's optional, and we'll encourage them to, and give them the flexibility that they need to be able to go when an opportunity presents itself to them for a vaccine. But yeah, no requirement.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, and that's why I asked Joe what the average age was. And I think one of the speakers even mentioned that the average age of a teacher is 30-something. So the reality is, for most of our teachers and most of our bus drivers, they weren't even eligible to get a vaccine until just this last week. They should have been, but they weren't. So giving them that opportunity, no teachers, no school. It's not like we have people beating down our door to drive buses, and they're certainly not beating them down to teach. And we owe it to those folks to give them an opportunity. I'm like Joe, I've had it. My whole family had it. Short of not being able to smell or taste, that was kind of the thing that tipped us all off. And then I had to give blood, and I was antibody positive. I've refused then to go ahead and take the vaccine, because the moment you take the vaccine, you can't give plasma anymore. So I continue to go and give plasma for those people that it is a death sentence for some of the folks out there. I'm a pharmacist by trade, so I am in healthcare, and I do go in hospitals. And I wish we could figure it out. I wish we could understand why. Why does a 90-year-old walk away and a marathon runner dies? I don't know. We just haven't figured that part out yet. I will tell you, I went on a business trip, and I watched the news in New York and New Jersey. I'm born and raised Texan, and I had to laugh. Their high schools haven't even opened up yet. Their middle schools were just opening up. And if you want to go to in-person school, you have to agree to random testing, which we would never think about doing that to our kids. They showed a video of an elementary kid having to stick that thing up their nose and test themselves. So to your point, we've gotten quite a few messages. I know a ton of teachers. My wife's whole family are teachers. Her dad was a superintendent. And, you know, their big thing is just give us a chance to do what we want to do, to your point. We're not requiring anybody to do it. But for all of those that feel safe, because they got the vaccine, by looking them in the face and saying, oh, I don't really care. I just don't see how you could ever do that. Those are the people teaching our kids. We gotta have them. And even if 30% walked away, we don't have school. So we struggle as it is with substitute teachers. I've got a lot of friends that are doing it. We're struggling as it is to try to make it as normal as we can. And if your kids play sports and you've been to any of the other schools, you know that we're a little bit different than everybody else. We don't have policemen walking up and down the stairs telling you to put your mask on. We ask you to, but we certainly don't do that or threaten to throw you out. And I've got a son in high school and a daughter in high school, and I can tell you that they hate masks, I hate masks. I'll give a plug for Magnolia Hardware. I only feel normal when I walk in there. But I know that on Nextdoor there were people ranting that they wouldn't go to Magnolia Hardware because they weren't requiring masks, right? So to your point, it's been a very polarizing issue. We're trying to respect our teachers. Nobody will be happier than me to know that I don't have to wear one. I get to do it enough in my professional world that I'd be happy to get rid of it. But not giving our teachers what they've asked for, I think it is a recipe for disaster long term.
Okay, thank you, guys. I hope you guys have seen, have gotten a glimpse into the heart and mind of this board. And regardless of all the challenges we have in front of us, we've heard about all of it, we've talked about a lot of it, we live in a special place, and Chuck brought this up. We live in a place where school has gone on since it started. It has not closed. We've had people in schools, some remote, but mostly in schools. That's where the learning takes place. That's what we're trying to keep. We're trying to take care of the teachers, keep the kids in schools so we can get the job of learning and education done. And what's even better than that is that we also live in a special place because a lot of school boards around the state, as Todd pointed out, are meeting tonight, and they're probably not having this conversation. They're probably, we don't know, we won't find out for the next few days, but they're probably having the conversation of business as usual. So we think we're making progress in a way that a lot of places aren't, and we think we live in a special place for a lot of reasons. So with that, is there any more comments? We'll move along. I need a motion. No. I need a motion that we approve the resolution waiving the TEA mask mandate for Magnolia ISD students and staff as cited in the governor's orders GA 34. Motion by Kelly, seconded by Sonia. All those in favor? That motion passes. All right. We got anything else to cover?
I think that's the end of the list.
All right. Okay, thank you guys for your patience tonight. The board is now going to recess into closed executive session for purposes permitted by pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071's consultation with attorney, pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.072, discussion of purchase, sale, exchange, or value of real property. And finally, pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074, personnel discussion and recommendations. Thank you all. We're back. Need a motion to adjourn this meeting. We've got 13 of them. Motion by Chuck, seconded by Sonia. All those in favor? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.